Want to know which upcoming JRPG should be on your radar for the rest of 2025? I got you covered. Hey friends, it's Just the Gems. I'm Brandon. The year is more than half over, but we are nowhere near running out of compelling JRPGs. But with so much to choose from, how are you supposed to pick what to spend your limited time on? What games are most likely to have the best stories or the most compelling gameplay? Let me give you my impressions, and please share yours with me down in the comments. I'm also going to rank these based on how hyped I am personally. There's a lot to cover, so let's just get into it. Along with recent games like Sea of Stars and Chained Echoes, Quartet is a game that asks, what if 16-bit JRPGs had never gone away? What if they just kept improving? Sure, eventually you'd reach the peak of the system's power, but when it comes to gameplay and storytelling, the sky's the limit. Quartet is heavily inspired by Final Fantasy VI, and it wears its affection for that game on its sleeve. As a game, this one plays like you remember the 16-bit classics playing, although it's much smoother than any of those games were. This is turn-based, pixelated combat at its sleek best. It doesn't overwhelm you with a multitude of gimmicks. It instead tries to focus on delivering fun gameplay that serves the story. Quartet is the story of a world in the wake of a war over magic. Each of the 4 prologue chapters that you can play in any order introduces you to a pair of the main characters, and once you've met all 8, you'll be ready to really begin the story, which promises to be as epic as the games you remember from the Super Nintendo. I recently got to interview the developers of this game over on my podcast, the JRPG Pursuit, so I highly recommend you go check that episode out. The link is in the description. This is going to be a big one, I really believe that, and it's coming out August 26th. That's next week, if you're watching this when it first comes out, so get ready. Varlet comes to us from Furyu, a studio that in my mind has put out some incredibly interesting work in the JRPG space over the last 10 years or so. Their games are definitely hit or miss with people, and most critics generally seem to dislike them for whatever reason. I've almost always found that I love the sort of chances they take with their titles. This game is a school life JRPG, which naturally is going to make everyone think of and compare it to Persona, but they're doing something else here. While you similarly rank up various personality traits through daily interactions around your school, these traits actually directly impact the development of your character. So emphasizing certain kinds of actions will actually build your character out in a particular and irreversible way. That adds a lot of weight to your decisions. Beyond the school life stuff, there are also dungeons where you'll engage in turn-based battles. Yeah, turn-based ain't dead, even with brand new games, so everyone who's heralding Expedition 33 as the resurrection of turn-based in modern gaming, hate to break it to you, but it never left. Furyu doesn't typically have the most top-of-the-line graphics. They're definitely not able to rival the heavy hitters like Square Enix or Bandai Namco or Atlus, but they have their own anime-esque charm. This company's games dive into some pretty heavy and sometimes controversial subjects, and the trailers for this one make me think it will basically be no different. It's a journey of self-discovery in a high school anime form, and I'll be looking forward to playing this one when it comes out August 28th. Man, how long has it been since this game was first announced? It's been like 8 or 9 years, I think. Back then, it was the work of largely one person, though I think since then the team's expanded quite a bit. Hopefully, the extra help has been for the better. I mean, I guess if it's taken a decade for the game to come out with a team working on it, we'd be waiting until 2060 if it stayed a solo project. But anyway, Lost Soul Aside is an action RPG that took some inspiration from Final Fantasy XV, though I think it's clear that most of that inspiration was largely superficial. It looks to play much more like hardcore action RPGs than the sort of soft hybrid that FF15 was. If anything, it looks much closer to the gameplay of Final Fantasy XVI, though quite a bit faster paced. It's the story of a young guy and his sister who get caught up in a fight to save humanity from extra-dimensional invaders. They get help from Arena, formerly an enemy in their conflict, but who's joined the humans in helping to repel the invasion. It's hard to say how engaging the story will end up being. The trailers thus far have focused extensively on the combat and the really cool traversal around the world. You can make what look like crystals appear below you as you run in the air, or make giant crystal wings for yourself. It just looks very striking and very cool. Right now, it's a PC and PlayStation 5 exclusive game since Sony's publishing it, but in this new world, that doesn't necessarily mean it won't ever appear on other consoles, so who knows. For now, I suspect action RPG lovers will be eating good on August 29th. If you've seen my channel before, you know this one is a no-brainer for me. This is the game. It has a high chance of being my game of the year. Not gonna sugarcoat it. Trails in the Sky First Chapter Remake is the Trails series gloriously returning to its very first entry, which came out over here ages ago for the PSP. I fell in love with the game in its original form, and it led me to crown the Trails series as my favorite long-running JRPG series of all time. And the fact that we're getting a full-on remake of the first entry with the style and mechanics of the latest entries is a dream come true. Okay, in case you're not familiar, Trails in the Sky tells the story of Estelle and her adopted brother Joshua as they travel around the country of Liberl in an effort to become full-fledged bracers. Bracers are essentially work-for-hire bounty hunters that do a lot of various tasks for citizens. Sometimes it's killing a monster, sometimes it's finding a lost cat. It's all in a day's work. But obviously, things aren't as simple as they appear to be at first. Estelle's dad, a legendary bracer in his own right, goes missing, and a whole bunch of other weird turmoil hits the kingdom. And Estelle and Joshua always seem to find themselves in the wrong place at the wrong time. Or right place at the right time, I guess, depending on how you look at it. The game mixes action RPG combat with turn-based mechanics, letting you tackle enemies on the field with action, and then seamlessly jump into turn-based whenever you want. It's my favorite JRPG battle system, and I'm excited to see the refinements they've made in this version. Words cannot describe my level of hype for this game, and we don't have much longer to wait. It's coming out September 19th. There's a prologue demo available now, so you should definitely go check that out. Okay, I'm gonna be honest with you. I was initially just trying to find a 10th game for this list, for completion's sake, because I could only think of 9 off the top of my head. Fortunately, I stumbled upon Hike Northern Lights. I'm really surprised by this one. First off, I really dig the art style. It's got this hand-drawn, almost colored sketch aesthetic to the characters, and the backgrounds are all beautifully painted. It's got cozy elements like camping and cooking, but it's also a full-blown action RPG, reminiscent of games like the older Mana titles. I don't know much about the story, other than what the text over the trailer reveals, that the girl, I'm guessing her name is Hike? I don't know. But anyway, that she's traveling in the footsteps of her mother, and her mother is in some way guilty of ruining the world. All I've seen is this 90-second trailer, and I haven't dug into it much more than that, but I've already decided I'm gonna play it. The problem is, it comes out on September 19th, same day as Trails in the Sky First Chapter. Obviously, being a Trails guy, that game takes priority, so this one will get played later in the fall for me. Let me know if this one was on your radar before and what you think of it. I'm really curious if a lot of people knew about it and I was just out of the loop or something. I'm a relatively new Atelier player. Previously, I'd played a bit of Atelier Iris on the PS2 and all of Atelier Rorona on the PS3, but I took a huge break in the middle and only started playing them again with Atelier Yumia, which I actually did a review for on this channel. Go check that out if you're curious. Anyway, Yumia seems to represent the future direction of the franchise, but Atelier Wrestleriana seems to be more of a throwback to the older style. For one, the combat here is turn-based, unlike Yumia, though the trailer makes it look fairly frantic and smooth. It does seem to have a strong focus on exploration. There's a seemingly open world to explore, as well as random dungeons called dimensional paths that change every time you enter. There's also a town building mechanic and some element of shop management, which admittedly are not my cup of tea, but I'm not writing this one off because of that. The Atelier games are just cozy fun for me, and I'll definitely be checking this one out when it launches September 26th. I was put off by Final Fantasy Tactics when I was a kid. I had just played the glorious Final Fantasy VII, and I wanted another game like that. What I got was a deep and complex tactical RPG with an equally deep and complex story. If I was the target audience for that game, they overshot me by quite a lot. I wasn't gripped by the plot at the time, and it was just too hard, so eventually I had to give up. But a lot of time has gone by. I'm a grown man now, and I'm more than ready to dive back into Ivalice with Final Fantasy Tactics: The Ivalice Chronicles. This is the original game reconstructed with full voice acting and more quality of life features. Honestly, I'm most excited about the voice acting. Hearing strong performances like I'm accustomed to in Square Enix games makes it so much easier for me to engage with the story, and I'm pretty confident they won't disappoint on that front. I know some people were upset that the changes found in the PSP version of Tactics aren't in this version, but it doesn't bother me too much. I trust that this is the version the creators wanted to release, and that works for me. We're getting this one on September 30th, and my lord, I'm just realizing how heavy loaded September is. Happy birthday to me, I guess. Is Digimon Storytime Stranger the game that gets me into this monster collecting genre the kids like so much? Well, based on the trailer, it definitely has the best shot at it. Time Stranger has a cool, dark anime edge to it, and even though the monsters are all recognizably goofy things I've been familiar with since the 90s cartoon, it still feels very cool and more grown up. It's not quite the same sort of grown up as giving Pokemon guns, which I guess some people like, but to me, Time Stranger's approach is better. It's an atmosphere thing, a vibe thing, you know. This is classic turn-based combat with light exploration, using your Digimon to traverse the environment, and naturally to kill the bad guys. The plot seems to be apocalyptic in nature, which, sure, that's been done before, but I don't think it's been done in a game starring cute little monsters. Look, until now, all I've known about Digimon is that they are digital monsters, and that they are the champions. I'm pretty hopeful, though, that this one will make me a full-on fan. It comes out October 3rd. If you're a classic JRPG fan, you're undoubtedly already well aware of Dragon Quest 1 and 2 HD 2D Remake, and you're probably already planning to buy it. But if you aren't a classic JRPG fan, let me tell you why you should still consider it. Dragon Quest is one of the most popular JRPG series in the world. It's been king in Japan since the 80s, and these two games are beautiful recreations of the two games that started it all. Dragon Quest 1 was my very first RPG. I played it when I was like 7 or 8 years old. It was way too hard for me back then, but since then, I've gotten really good at video games, so I've beaten it. I mean, technically, I beat the Game Boy Color version, which is easier than the original on NES, but whatever. Dragon Quest 1 is just pure, unadulterated JRPG goodness. You're a lone hero, you go out on a quest to defeat the Dragon Lord. It's not too much more complicated than that. The HD 2D remake looks to be adding some new elements, like fights with multiple monsters at once. In the original, you only fought one monster at a time, believe it or not. And it looks like they're adding some new story bits, or maybe side quests. It's not 100% clear just yet. Dragon Quest 2 took the adventuring of the first game and tripled it, both by giving you a party of 3 heroes that had distinct personalities and skill sets, as well as increasing the size of the explorable world considerably. The HD 2D remake is taking things even further than it does with the first game by giving us an entirely new 4th party member, which no doubt is going to change the story in some significant ways. But I'm confident that Square Enix will pull off whatever updates they plan to make. This one hits shelves October 30th. I loved Octopath Traveler. I loved the art style, the short story aesthetic, the fast-paced turn-based combat. It was and is fantastic. Octopath Traveler 2 came along and basically did everything Part 1 did, only more and better. So what's going on with Octopath Traveler 0? This is apparently a prequel, and it's based on the mobile game, Octopath Traveler Champions of the Continent, a game that I had at one time downloaded to my mobile phone, and then proceeded to never even open a single time. I say based on because this is not that mobile game. Parts of the game are apparently an adaptation of Champions of the Continent's story, but things have been refocused around your central character, a nameless protagonist that you create. That means, in this title, for the first time, you're not picking one of the 8 main characters and following their story while meeting up with the other 7 along the way. Instead, you're engaged in a much more linear narrative about the world of Orstera. There's also a town building mechanic and the ability to convince townspeople from other villages to relocate to your home. There's a lot of interesting stuff in here, and it looks like it shakes up the formula considerably. You can even have up to 8 characters in battle at a time, and there are more than 8 this time around. From what I've read, there are more than 30 characters in this game. Octopath? More like Triakanta Path. I looked it up. That's the prefix for something with 30 parts or sides or whatever. Fact check me. But this one comes out December 4th, meaning, at least according to this list, we're in for a quiet November. Now, how should I rank these? I think at the bottom of my list is Varlet. Or is it Varlet? I don't know. Varlet, whatever. Not that I'm not at all optimistic about it. I've liked most of what Fudio puts out, but I feel like they have a bit of a hill to overcome in terms of expectations. And hey, I'm as influenced by other people's attitudes as anyone. I'm going to be giving this one a very open-minded chance, though. Next up from there is Atelier Yumia. I think it does look very cool, though I'm a firm English dub lover, and Koei Tecmo just doesn't do English for their Atelier games anymore, so it'll always lose some significant points from me in that. Lost Soul Aside is next. It definitely looks very cool, but I'm still in the dark on the story. I don't know if that means they're just keeping it close to the chest because it's so cool, or it's just pretty minimal, so they don't have very much to show. Final Fantasy Tactics: The Ivalice Chronicles is number 7. Very stoked to see the updated story with the voice acting, believe me. But it's a bit lower on my list because tactical games have just never been my forte. But at least I'm open to them these days, so there's that. Number 6 is Digimon Story Time Stranger. Like I said, I think this has the best chance of bringing me into the monster collecting fan club, but it's not guaranteed, so we'll see how well it shapes up. I'm fairly optimistic. At number 5, Hike Northern Lights. You might be as surprised as I am that this game I didn't even know existed prior to starting to work on this video ranked as highly as it did. Maybe it's some recency bias at play, but I think this looks really cool. Like a cozy action RPG that feels sort of vaguely apocalyptic. I'm into it. Number 4, Octopath Traveler 0. I'm excited for the possibilities this one has. The formula was refined in Octopath 2, and now it's being completely shaken up, and I'm here for it. Number 3 is Dragon Quest 1 and 2 HD 2D Remake. DQ1 was my first JRPG, and if I could go back and tell 7-year-old Brandon that he'd be excited about this game coming out when he was in his 40s, I think 7-year-old Brandon would say, "Who are you? Get out of my house, where's my mom?" I mean, realistically, he's not gonna know I'm him. And I probably should tell him to invest in Microsoft or Apple or something if I have an opportunity to go back and tell him something. Why would I talk about video games? I could tell him anything. Anyway, number 2 is Quartet. I truly think this is going to be a special game for fans of the classics. Definitely recommend you take a look at the demo if you haven't already, because Quartet is shaping up to be one of the best indie JRPGs out there, period. And of course, number 1 for me is Trails in the Sky First Chapter Remake. No duh, right? Definitely go play the demo. Your progress carries over into the final game, so it's a win-win. I think you're going to like it, and if you've been waiting for a reason to start Trails, well, here you go. So did I miss any? Especially in November, when it looks like a dry spell? Don't get me wrong, I'm perfectly okay with a dry spell. This is a lot to get through, and I need time, right? We all need time. I hope you enjoyed this. Let me know if I brought anything to your attention that you weren't aware of. If you wouldn't mind liking and subscribing, I'd really appreciate it. Also, I have channel memberships available if you want to support me in the channel that way. I would be super grateful. Oh, also, check out my podcast, like I mentioned earlier, the JRPG Pursuit. We put out new episodes about JRPGs every single Wednesday, and we're going to be presenting a panel along with our friends at the Party Chat podcast at PAX West on Monday, September 1st in Seattle. So if you're going to be in the area, come say hi. Anyway, with all that being said, it's time to wrap this up. Until next time. Bye.